The world's most notorious serial killer might never have been apprehended if he had possessed the knowledge to proficiently use a computer. Envision an individual committing a series of murders who is simultaneously a companion to his victims, a prominent figure in the city, and furthermore, a medical doctor. This is the astonishing narrative of Dr. Harold Shipman, who utilized his medical practice not to preserve lives but rather to end them. In a small town known as Hyde, where merely 30,000 individuals resided, he conducted serial killings right under everyone's noses for a span of 23 years. Even after causing the deaths of over 250 individuals, no one suspected Dr. Harold Shipman, and perhaps they never would have if he hadn't made a minor error. What was the motive behind taking lives? Why wasn't he apprehended for such an extended period? And what evidence did the authorities uncover that revealed the years of murders in a moment? Dr. Harold Shipman operated his medical clinic in a quaint town known as Hyde, situated near Manchester in England. The overall population in this area was approximately 30,000 individuals, and among them about 3,000 individuals were patients under the care of Dr. Shipman. The doctor primarily targeted patients who resided alone and were considerably elderly, whose passing would not raise any suspicion. Dr. Shipman dedicated as much time as he could to those patients, frequently visiting them at their residences. He attentively listened to them to ease their hearts, ensuring they felt that even though they were solitary, Dr. Shipman was present to hear everything they wished to express. Several patients placed immense trust in Dr. Shipman to such an extent that they even entrusted him with the keys to their residences. Due to this demeanor, he had become quite renowned in Hyde, as individuals believed that Dr. Shipman provided treatment to the elderly merely through conversation. Nonetheless, beneath the facade of all this, Dr. Shipman would meticulously extract all their personal details through conversation, such as who was alone at specific times, who possessed significant wealth and property, and who frequented their homes. And where do the relatives reside? Once Dr. Shipman felt content with the information he gathered, he would lethally administer an excessive dose of medication to his patients. Given that the patients were already over the age of 80, nobody questioned their passing. This went on for numerous years. Not only was he not apprehended, but nobody even suspected him. That was until he committed an error himself. Dr. Shipman initiated his professional journey in a town named Pontefract, which is approximately 70 kilometers distant from Hyde, where he was employed at a hospital. Subsequently, in the year 1974, he departed from Pontefract. He went to where he held the position of general practitioner at the Abraham and Merritt Medical Center. He ultimately got discovered. During his period of employment, he was found to be prescribing excessive quantities of a medication known as pethidine to specific patients, which he was actually consuming himself. Pethidine is essentially a pain-relieving drug, yet it is quite an addictive substance. Dr. Shipman had developed a dependency on pethidine and deliberately prescribed this medication to his patients. He would administer a small portion to them while utilizing the greater quantity himself. The patients did not genuinely require this medication. Consequently, the patients experienced a sense of well-being after consuming the medicine, unaware that they were indeed becoming addicted. This was the reason the patients were drawn to Shipman, even if they had no intention to be. Upon being discovered, the hospital administration terminated Dr. Shipman's employment, and it ultimately resulted in the revocation of his license. Nevertheless, Shipman was required to pay a fine amounting to £600 and subsequently admitted himself into a rehabilitation facility, which ultimately prevented his license from being revoked. After spending a brief period at the rehabilitation center when everyone had forgotten about him, he relocated to Hyde in 1977, where he assumed the role of a general practitioner at Donnybrook Medical Center. In the 1980s, he continued to practice as a GP, and during this time, he neither quit his addiction nor missed an opportunity to kill elderly patients. However, the frequency of these murders significantly increased from 1993 when he opened his own clinic in Hyde and established a good reputation in the city. For several years, things continued in this manner, and no one suspected the doctor's actions. In March of the year 1919, Dr. Linda Reynolds, who was employed at Broke Surgery, the medical facility situated directly across from Shipman's clinic, first articulated her concerns regarding the elevated mortality rate among Shipman's patients. She observed that Shipman, who operated merely a small clinic, had experienced the deaths of 16 patients within the preceding 3 months. In contrast, during that identical time frame, Broke Surgery, which had a patient base 3 times larger than that of Shipman's clinic, recorded a lower number of deaths. Only 14 patients had passed away there. The suspicion intensified further when it was uncovered that following the demise of all 16 of Dr. Shipman's patients, they were cremated rather than interred. It is noteworthy to mention here that the majority of Christians tend to prefer to bury their loved ones after their passing, with only a minority choosing cremation. Dr. Linda conveyed her suspicion in the form of a detailed report to the Manchester coroner. It was meticulously documented in all these comprehensive details that among Dr. Shipman's 16 patients, the majority were elderly women who were discovered deceased within their residences. It seemed implausible that it was merely coincidental that Dr. Shipman happened to be the sole individual present at their homes during the times of their deaths. Dr. Linda articulated that it was attributed to illness occurring at home. Deaths typically happen while individuals are lying in bed. Nevertheless, Dr. Shipman's patients passed away in peculiar manners, such as sitting upright in a chair, dressed nicely, and during those instances, either Dr. Shipman was present at their residence or he arrived there for the first time and discovered the patient deceased, which cannot be regarded as normal in any manner. An investigation was initiated based on this report, yet the police were unable to uncover any substantial evidence against Dr. Shipman, and after a month, the case was closed. The investigation was concluded. Whenever Dr. Harold Shipman's patients passed away, he would personally sign Form B. This particular form is the one that the attending physician is required to sign, specifying the cause of the patient's demise. Nonetheless, the problem arose with Form C, which was supposed to be signed by a different doctor, yet it was frequently signed by Shipman's acquaintances, fellow doctors, or individuals who did not harbor any suspicions about him. In this manner, Dr. Shipman would fabricate inaccurate details on his patients' death certificates and dispatch them for cremation without arousing any suspicion from anyone. As a result of this procedure, numerous deaths went unexamined, and this was the reason Dr. Shipman was able to effortlessly conceal his homicidal activities. After the comprehensive investigation reached its conclusion, Dr. Shipman tragically ended the lives of 3 more individuals, yet the inevitable moment for him to be apprehended was drawing near. Dr. Shipman's final victim was the former mayor of Hyde, 81-year-old Kathleen Grundy, who passed away at her residence on June 20, 1998. In this particular instance as well, Dr. Shipman was the last individual to witness Kathleen alive. Subsequently, he went on to sign the official death certificate indicating the cause of death as natural old age. Kathleen's daughter, Angela Woodruff, who was an attorney by profession, became suspicious of her mother's sudden passing when she found a will in which her mother had left her house to Dr. Shipman. Dr. Shipman had been quite close to the family, and inheriting the house through the will did not on its own raise suspicion. Nevertheless, Angela was skeptical because her mother actually owned 2 houses. Even though the will solely referenced a single house, it suggested that it was crafted by an individual who was not informed about the existence of the second house, and that individual was indeed Dr. Shipman. Angela Woodruff approached the police authorities, who subsequently reopened the investigation. Kathleen Grundy's remains were exhumed and dispatched for a thorough autopsy. It was uncovered that her body contained substantial traces of diamorphine, commonly known as heroin. The police asked Dr. Shipman, and he claimed that Kath was addicted to heroin, and he had documented this information in his computer even prior to providing treatment to them. Dr. Shipman had recently initiated the practice of recording entries in a computerized medical journal. However, they were not cognizant of the fact that even though they had inputted the date preceding the death, the latest modification date of the document is automatically preserved within the computer system. When the police scrutinized the entries on that computer, it was unveiled that the entry was generated by Shipman subsequent to Kathleen's demise. This alone wasn't adequate evidence to apprehend Shipman, but the police also uncovered the typewriter employed to draft the counterfeit will. It was discovered that some characters on Shipman's typewriter were damaged, and the same characters were missing in the forged will. On September 7, 1919, The police arrested the well-known Dr. Harold Shipman from Hyde. When this information came to light, those people also came forward whose loved ones had been killed by Shipman earlier. They had suspicions but couldn't raise their voices against the city's renowned doctor. The law enforcement authorities also conducted an investigation into 15 additional patients who had passed away due to Shipman's actions sometime prior. A distinct pattern was discerned in all these instances where the patient was administered a fatal dose of diamorphine. He would personally sign their death certificates and cite old age as the cause of death. Shipman would further suggest cremation so that all evidence would be obliterated after incineration. Throughout the inquiry, the cases of all those patients were meticulously reviewed once more. The patients tragically passed away while under the medical care of Shipman. The investigative team conducted a thorough examination of all pertinent documents, including death certificates and medical records that Shipman had managed. Moreover, interviews were carried out with the families of individuals whose relatives had been under Shipman's care, and certain bodies were exhumed to undergo forensic post-mortem analyses. This procedure was extremely meticulous, and during this period it was uncovered that from the year 1975 until his apprehension, Shipman had a total of 218 patients have tragically lost their lives. This is the verified number, yet due to insufficient evidence in numerous instances, they could not be conclusively confirmed. It is estimated that this figure might potentially be as high as 260. The judicial court sentenced Shipman to capital punishment 15 times for committing 15 murders. This ensured he would remain incarcerated for the entirety of his life. Nevertheless, in the year 2004, he took his own life by hanging himself with a bedsheet that he tied to the bars of his prison cell. Subsequent to his death, a fellow inmate disclosed a startling revelation that Shipman had actually murdered not 218 or 260, but a total of 508 individuals, and Shipman himself had confessed this to him. The genuine reason behind Shipman's numerous killings has not yet been fully uncovered. Some individuals label him as a psychopath, others perceive it as a means to generate income, while some interpret it as the consequence of Shipman's mother's passing. His mother, who was suffering from cancer, was administered morphine as a pain-relieving medication. Experts are of the opinion that perhaps the Shipman intended to witness its patients pass away by administering morphine in a similar manner. We sincerely hope you will enjoy and generously share this video. Thank you immensely for your heartfelt comments. We look forward to seeing you in the next extraordinary video.